Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I just wanted to make you aware that the episode that you're going to listen to now does not have perfect audio. I thought about re-recording this episode, but I know that if I'd done that, it just wouldn't have been as authentic. The other option was never to release it, and that to me didn't sound like a great thing either. So please be mindful that the audio isn't perfect. My apologies for this, but it appears to be that can happen when you do a podcast as a relative amateur. Thank you so much for sticking with it and listening to Esta's story.
What of your parents' heritage did you inherit, I guess, on the day you were born?
The biggest thing that comes to my mind is the culture of my dad's side, because 7 days after I was born, we had a naming ceremony. I'm not 100% sure, see down when I was little, if that was solely Islamic thing or solely African thing or a blend of the two. But the naming ceremony was something that was, I guess, deemed as quite powerful. So I took that culture or held that with me straight away. I say my mum's Britishness. That's what I'd say for her side.
And when you say from your father's side, where can we place him?
Guinea Conakry.
Okay.
So West Africa.
Okay. Is that where your name comes from?
Yeah. So my name has, from what I understand, 3 variations. It could be Esta, Aisha, or Isetta. So my grandma's name was Isetta, and then I took the Esta formation of that. Yeah.
And interesting though, because I have spoken to a few people who have, really Western names, and some have really, I guess, culturally diverse names, how many place them. So when people hear Esta, if they were to read it on a piece of paper, do you think that they would place you in a foreign category?
Yeah. Yeah. If they see it on paper, yes, because they think, oh, that's a really interesting way to spell it. My name's spelled Esta, whereas the most common spelling is Esther. So then when I say it to people, they'll say, oh, that's a very beautiful name. And I'll say, no, it's not. It's not that spelling.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when I try and spell it to people, they'll get to the T, and I think their brains automatically are ready to do the rest. And I say A, they'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, no. But I guess it depends which way you come at it from. Yeah.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chapeltown. Always lived in Chapeltown. I'm the oldest of, well, 4 on my mum's side, I think. Maybe give or take 4 on my dad's side. The only child to my mum and my dad. So a lot of my siblings didn't grow up in Chapeltown as well. They might have in their teenage years or latter years, but I would say in Chapeltown. Yeah.
So does that mean that out of the 8, you are the only one who's mixed, or are there others?
Basically. Yeah, I would say yeah.
Tell me about how that experience.
It's forever felt like a black sheep. A feeling of not truly belonging, and I think because my dad died when I was 3, I lost that side of. I just rejected it. I think I rejected the whole African side, and then growing up in Chapeltown, when I grew up, you couldn't really say you was African because you'd just get really bullied. So I think on a personal level, and because he died, I didn't want anything to do with him or his culture, and then being in Chapeltown, I didn't. And I think because I felt rejected by my Black brothers and sisters. Because, there is that thing of white women taking Black men, and I was the prodigy of that, I guess. My white brothers and sisters, they love me regardless, and we have a better relationship. But then again, psychologically, it's like you don't really know what it's like. Like sometimes between me and my older brother, I just say to my mum, like, where did you change? How is he so much like this and I'm so much like that? So yeah, I've always now I'm in my 30s, I'm very much like, I'm okay, but I'd rather be left alone, which I don't know if that's okay. Well, I'll say it to my brother sometimes, like, I can just see you guys once a year, that's fine. I'm okay in my own bubble now. Yeah. But I think because of the age gap, that also it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because my siblings on both sides, it's a 16 to 22 year age gap. So that's already a huge thing. They were already grown up when I was born. So, yeah.
And can we just circle back to that? Because I didn't know this. I didn't grow up in the UK, so I don't really know. But when you say growing up in Chapeltown, you couldn't really say about the African part. What was that?
I don't know if it was just Chapeltown, because you wouldn't necessarily want to say it in school either. But there was I think because, let's say, Chapeltown specifically, a lot of people migrated here from the Windrush. So they're from specific islands like St. Kitts and Nevis. That's a name that's going to my head, mainly because that's where my kids are raised from. But just a lot of different islands, basically. And I think, and then with that, there's big families as well. And I guess there were a lot more respected in that way. So then when there was someone who was African, you just get taken the mick out of, basically. And I don't know if that was before I was born, because I know when my dad was alive, he did a lot of, he was an artist, so a musician, so he did a lot of drumming and performances and worked in Northern School of Contemporary Dance. So I don't know if and when it changed, but I just know when I grew up, you would rather just lie and say he was Caribbean than say he was African. And I think it was easier for me to say that because I didn't have my dad or my family around to really say otherwise. So I just, yeah.
So that was the narrative you made for yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. And when, if ever, did you start to change?
I think as I got older, I was like, I'm just lying to myself, really. And I think as you get older, people ask more questions. If you are from here, then why is your family and why is this, that? And it gets to the point where there's just no point in lying anymore. So I'd probably say high school. It wasn't something that I was proud of still, but I just accepted it. And then I'd say as I've got older, and maybe times have changed, and maybe my feelings towards my dad has changed. I've been able to just be a lot more expressive in that way. Yeah, maybe when I had my eldest as well, because I wanted him to know where he came from. And my mum made a really big deal that he had a naming ceremony. So, yeah, I'd say, yeah, teens.
And have you ever been to
Guinea now. Africa, Gambia, yes. My mum used to take me to Gambia every year when I was younger. I don't know why. I want to say because I had a sister there. I had two sisters there at the time, but I'm going to assume that's why. But yeah, so we used to go every year. So that was nice.
Yeah. Gives you some kind of link
Yeah.
to that part
of
you. And yeah, because you said, the conversation will come up where it's like, where are you from? And I guess what I hear you say is that when you were small, you would say from a Caribbean island. But how did those questions make you feel? Do you remember?
I think I just blocked it out. Yeah, I think I was really good at, still am, just blocking things out. Like I remember doing, mum signed me up for an interview when I was, I think around 10, about being mixed race, and I was just like, wow, it is what it is. Whereas the reality was, it's probably a lot more harder than I wanted to accept. But I think I just blocked it. But I do also see it even now with my son. If they have like a Repia flag day, he's much more likely to wear his Jamaican top or his carrot St. Kitts and Nevis top than an African outfit. So I do think it is part of the social pressure and wanting to fit in and feeling cool as well. Yeah.
And do you sometimes wish growing up that you were one of the other of your siblings, that you were not, the confusing part, but that you could identify as one?
No. I love being both. I do love being both. And I think for me, now as I've grown up, and I don't know if it's right to say, but I see where I can use my white privilege just from the side that I have, if that makes sense. Like I can actually take advantage of that, and I like the idea of that. But I also love and appreciate the Black culture that I have as well. And I'd hate to, I mean, no offense, that's nice to say, but I'd hate just to be, well, I guess I'd hate to be either. I like having the best of both. It was hard as a teenager. Like most of my friends were from Chapeltown growing up, and I was always seen as a posh girl all the time. And I think because my mum wasn't even from Yorkshire, so her accent was very different. She's from Lowestoft. Yeah, no. It's like the furthest point east in the UK.
Okay.
It's like a seaside, villagey kind of town. And their accent is really like it's glass, it is, and just certain things that they'd say you wouldn't necessarily, it's not Yorkshire, basically. It's not quite a tinge. And I think because it was just me and her growing up, I had a lot of that accent. And if I said like water, like it's water, things like that, I had to make sure she was an English teacher as well. So yeah, I had that. I was always a posh princess in Chapeltown. And then I went to school in Mount Horsley, which is, I was a ghetto girl because it was so far. I didn't seen people from Chapeltown before. So now I was like, this other persona, that was really hard growing up because it was like I was constantly wearing a mask maybe to appease people. But yeah, again, I think you just grow out of it. I hope you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that whomever is looking at you kind of decides for you.
Yeah, what you become. Yeah, definitely.
How do you deal with that?
As in, how did I deal, or how should you deal?
No, how did
Okay, I'd say when I was younger, I used to smoke a lot just to dissociate myself. That's what I'd say. I couldn't leave the house without smoking just because I had so much anxiety over what I was going to be faced with. Again, it's that blocking, it's the numbing, it's just a blank face and just being a mask for wherever I am. I say as I've got older and I did a lot of mindset work and emotional work, I just learned how to be myself in settings and only put myself in settings I actually felt comfortable with. I didn't feel comfortable not going because then it means that the mask is going to come out. So I say that's how I dealt with it, being a lot more selective in places that I actually chose to put myself. I felt like I could be free within. Yeah.
How do you then, because oftentimes I for instance felt like my mother is just Black African and my father is white European, and my mother would always say, just remember when you go out in the world, you're Black, like almost like I had to kind of just leave the white part. He was like, as long as you know, when you go out, we'll look at you and this is what they see. Did you go out into the world as mixed, as white, as black? Like, how do you think you?
I'd probably say mixed. I can't remember if my mum would ever say you're black or if she'd say you're mixed. But culturally, I don't know if she did it because my dad died, but everything had to be black. I was never like a white doll or anything like that. I have like real vivid images in my mind, go to the market and I might see a cute white doll. No, it always had to be a black doll. My mum she tried to be less as cultured as she possibly could, but she loved chapel town and she loved black African Caribbean culture anyway. But I think again, when you are white, there's only so much you can offer in that respect, because what I learned growing up and maybe having my own family and my partner's family is black, so then you're fully in it now. There's like the theory versus really living it. And I'd say my mum gave me a lot of the theory, whereas living it within the black culture properly with my partner and his family, I've learned a lot more, if that makes sense. I understand things a lot more. So I never grew up thinking I'm half black, so I'm going to have to think or act differently. That was never put into my head. But I know that's something that my partner might mention to the children, especially if he's the only black one there, like, don't mess around. You're already like the only black person here. Don't make anything else more obvious, kind of thing. So yeah, I see it in that respect.
Yeah. And yeah, your friends, like, who would you choose to?
Growing up, it was the friends around the area. Like my mum, she was fully in the culture. She her best friend for a long time ran the Saturday school in Mandela Centre. So, and that was for, I don't say just disadvantaged children, but children within the area, whether they needed it or not. I'd say it was people within the area for the most part, especially growing up. So black and mixed race girls around here. My friends at school were black and mixed race. I'd say it was only when I went to high school I started to get white friends. Yeah, even now I'd say now my friends are a very big mixture, just because we've made friends on mutuals from different experiences. But growing up, it was always just black and mixed race. Yeah.
And when you tick boxes on the what is it, the heritage questionnaire forms, what do you take?
I mean, now I'd take mixed white and black African. I wouldn't be surprised if I had to do that when I was younger. I did white Caribbean. I'm not gonna put that past myself. Yeah, I could see myself doing that.
Oh gosh. And like you have children with a Caribbean man. So your children are 3/4, 1/4. And when the world sees our kids, they definitely don't see the one.
Yeah.
How do your children see you?
As white. But I think that's so pale as well. I'm pale in the winter at least. Like, yeah, my youngest, he's so unfiltered. And you're like, why are you so white? And I'm so black. And I'm like, well, you're not so black. There is still a bit of white in you, but we all have different shades. I'm like, yeah, but why are you so white? So I think they see me through just my shades. Like I remember when my oldest was in nursery and we had to draw a picture. The picture was yellow. So yeah, the whole identity thing, I think as they get older and they understand it a little bit more, they see me for who I am. But again, I think it's difficult because they don't see my parents. Well, they saw my mum, but my dad. And then because of that, they don't see that African side at all. So I think for them, their world is the Caribbean world because they have both their grandparents on my partner's side. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because Miles was the same. I think he literally clocked, actually, no word of a lie, like 6 months ago. He would draw me white. He would say to everybody that he's got a white. I swear to God. Where was my sister? So I'm one of 3 girls, and my older sister is married to a white man.
Okay.
And so he would say, my older sister's black,
Oh,
but I am white. And so I don't know whether he did it with the juxtaposition to the other.
yeah, maybe. Maybe. Maybe, because I feel like because my eldest saw me and my mum together, you can see there is a clear difference, whereas my youngest hasn't had the opportunity to do that. But I'm saying that he sees his cousins who are very pale white, so I don't know. I don't know if he does it just to be me.
What's the advantage? What's the upshot? What is the gain from being mixed?
I'd say having the best of both worlds, really. Being able to put yourself in conversation with Black communities and still having a say where possible, especially when you've got children within that even more. But then also being able to have a mindset that is more, I guess, like white people centered, if that makes sense. Like sometimes, and I know it's down to the disadvantages, a lot of it is down to the disadvantages that Black people have had, but I think it makes them just, and I'm saying this more from my best friend's point of view who's full Black, they can make excuses for themselves. I can't do this because of that. I can't do that because of this. Whereas my best friend, she's really, like, she's my inspiration, to be fair. She doesn't let anything stop her. Like, I think she's still the only Black person on her team, but she's nearly at manager level in the marketing company that she's with. And she's like, I'm not going to let anything stop me. She's just got that kind of mindset. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people in the Black community don't have that mindset, which is unfortunate because then it limits them to their potential and possibilities. But then they also don't see it as well. Whereas on the other side, I'm fortunate that I have a brother. Both brothers are really successful in what they do. And my children get to see that. They see his house, they see his cars, and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, look, this is what you can do if you work hard. And that's not to say you couldn't have a Black brother like that. That's just my experience. And I think by being able to see things like that, it can just open their eyes and think, okay, this is what I want. So this is what I'm going to focus and do. So yeah, I say having the best of both.
And do you ever feel that people begrudge you that flexibility?
I don't know if anyone's ever asked to feel that way, if I'm honest. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of my friends are mixed, but they might not be mixed with Black. Like two of my other best friends are mixed Asian and mixed white. So I think a lot of us have shared experiences of living in two different types of worlds. So then when we go to, or when we have discussions, I might hear their experiences. But I think it depends what spaces you put in. I wouldn't say there's like a negative of being best of both, but you might get looked down on from one side.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So if I'm in a Black place, sometimes I might feel completely out of place. I remember when I used to go to Africa, to Gambia, they call me Tuba, which means white. So there was I just wasn't anything to them but white. Whereas sometimes I feel like being on Black white spaces, even with my own family, especially if it's family who I don't really see. I'm like the only mixed race person there. And then my kids are even darker than me, and I'm like, oh, this is really uncomfortable for me. And I don't know how they've seen me either. And I would think, Mum, you're the one that stepped out, really. But yeah, I don't know. My white side's very polite, so I don't know how they feel. I think because again, being with a white mum, I don't think you always see how people are taking advantage of you, because like I would say I've only really experienced racism off the top of my head twice. And it was never directly to me. Like there was one time when I was little and it was me and my mum and my niece were on a train. My niece is full black, and there was this white guy and he just went in on my mum. Like it was horrible, horrible experience, and no one stuck up for us or said it was wrong, but he was calling my mum all sorts of names, and my mum was the most unconfrontational person ever. She just fucking no, and yeah, that was traumatic, and it now being in those situations, I could be very confrontational, I think, because of that. But that was one experience, and then another one was when I was working for a media company, and just how they spoke about Black people. I can't remember what they said, but it was just really ignorant and like an undertone of racism. And I was like, is this what it feels like? But that's just me and my experience. And I think that's why, to be a token, it didn't seem that bad, because I didn't see or feel what it feels like to have racism at your face all the time. Whereas if you are exposed to racism and then you're the token, I think it's like that thing as with Black people are always the entertainers. You're going to feel more, I guess, objectified. Whereas I didn't feel objectified. I just took those opportunities with running my stride.
And I think so much of the mixed identity is kind of also about you can't cook out of the oven.
Yeah. Literally. No pun intended.
So how do you think people where would they place you without knowing your mixed heritage background? Do you think people see you when they will place you somewhere on the map? Would they place you as mixed?
I think so. I've never had the assumption, if that makes sense. I remember it was my first ever job. I applied to work at McDonald's at 16, and I'll never forget the guy who was interviewing me. He was so focused on my last name. And I was like, I'm here for the job, and you're putting me off the job interview because you want to know about my last name that I can only tell you is from Guinea. Like, what more do you want me to say? It's so fascinating. Like, but what's the history of it? And if not, and it was such a strange thing that has always stuck with me. But that was more from, I guess, I don't want to say inquisitive because I think that's giving them too much power, but just that point of view. And again, you're not now focusing on me and who I am right now sitting in front of you for a job. And then another time was when the horrible experience, when my mum was in hospital because she had cancer, and cancer has its own like A&E. That's the best way I can put it. So if you need to go in, you go there. And it was like a room full of other people who needed emergency help. And Mum was clearly in distress. She's in pain. And this woman sat next to me, starts asking me where I'm from. And I was just like, and I think it was like stupid o'clock at night. We're already here. I'm with my mum. And this woman next to me is asking me where am I from. And I just said, I'm from here.
Yeah.
I'm from here.
Yeah.
I was born here. But where are you really from? I said, Mum, I'm going to have to step out a second because now is not the time for me to get rid. Like, you know, when you're already worked up because of the situation that you're in, then you've got someone next to you, like, leaning over. And again, it's not for my benefit that you're asking, it's your own, just nosiness.
Yeah.
And I just think this is not the time or the place.
Yeah.
Like, why do you care where I'm from right now?
Yeah.
You're ill as well. Like,
Yeah.
just be in your bubble, let us be in our bubble. So yeah, it's more the questioning as opposed to the assumptions I had to deal with, which still isn't fun.
Do you ever feel like you're missing part of your story because of the passing of your dad and
yeah.
knowing
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. And I think because he was African, and I don't really have a lot of African people around me, that makes it even more difficult because the culture, he was, even like the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of people have ancestors from there, which isn't to say my ancestors can't be, but my dad came to England through work. It was a completely different story. It's a completely different history. His mum was still in Africa. So I could potentially have had family still there in that respect. And I just think, like when I was younger, people would still remember him because we still live where he lived when he was alive. If they heard my last name, they're like, "Oh, you're the daughter of the Master Suma," or this and that, and I'd actually feel more envious because it's like, you know him more than me. I only knew him for 3.5 years of my life, so there's nothing that I can really give. Um, and I do think my way of dealing with that was to reject all parts of it. And my sister told me that when I was young, I did blame myself a lot for his passing, because he was he was on dialysis, so he was quite ill. And I think there was a time he must have banged his head, collapsed, and I saw. And my sister would say that once he died, I'd go in my head like, I should have done something, I should have helped him. And I think my protective barrier at 3 years old was just to reject. And my sister would say that I just kind of stopped talking, like I was just really quiet. He was a drummer, I was in with the djembe, and I only just, I used to drum when I was little because I was faster. Not out of choice, I hated doing it again, so I to reject the culture. But then when my mum died, she had one of his drums and I just picked it up and I started drumming for the first time. I was like, this is really freeing. It's nice, but I can see how I've rejected it just to protect myself, so to speak. I didn't actually grieve for him until I was 16. So how I've managed to go 16 years without, like, just letting that emotion out. And then I went through a traumatic surgery and then that forced the grief to come out. But then because it forced it to come out, my mental health completely dipped. And I was in a really bad state for 3 or 4 years of my life because then I was like, okay, you're grieving at 16 and it's such a pinnacle, I guess, age for so many young people that my mind and body didn't know what to do with it. And then again, after I got out of that, it was like, let's forget about him again because I don't want to feel this. Yeah. So I think that's made it hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is. And again, because you're in Chapeltown, you're kind of not appropriating, but you are associating with the territory. And like you so rightly say, it's a very different story from the African story.
Yeah.
And in full honesty, I didn't know that until I moved to the UK and started dating a Caribbean.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I didn't grow up in
yes.
and I had always heard my mother's African, story of my heritage, which was extremely proudly African and extremely, like, you know, she came from a village, but her granddad was the chief, and I need you to know that you guys are princesses, your ancestors are, you know, of nobility, essentially, it's from. So those were the history stories that I knew.
Yeah.
And when I started dating Daryl, and he was like, yeah, you can essentially trace your mother's history back to a specific point, and that goes back into, you know, the hundreds of years, when it's like, my story stops.
Yeah.
It is a very clear entry point, and everything that happens before that, I would have to be doing DNA testing on.
Yeah.
And I think I wasn't really aware of that difference until I moved here.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely knew, but like I said, I think that's more because in that history of all your word was an obsolete Greek. So it was always this thing of, well, for example, people's last names, a lot of them are more British last names because of that, whereas I know my last name is African. So that was the only thing that would make me feel a little bit better when I was younger. But that was it. Everything else was, no, I wish I was Caribbean so I could understand the culture. And even now, in my house, granted it is because I've grown up in Chapel Town Mill as well, everything is reggae, it's fashion, it's dance hall, but that's because when I was, I think, 15, we'd be going down to the West Indian Centre, they had like underage nights for us. And obviously it was Caribbean focused underage nights. And then even when I grew up, we'd never go to like an Afrobeats thing. That was just embarrassing. You wouldn't be seen dead going in somewhere like that. Whereas now I'd be open to it. I'd love to. Sometimes I try and put on African music for my children just so they have it. And I'd love to take them. And I remember one time I don't remember what happened or why, but I came across someone and they asked me what my last name was, and I said Suma. And he said that his last name was Suma. Now I'm saying it could have actually just been a random pedophile. But when I was younger, right now I'm saying out loud. But I was like, oh God, another one like me. I finally found someone else called Suma. But I just remember, as much as I rejected it, I longed for the belonging, and I do think that's because I didn't have any other siblings that were the same as well.
But you still have family.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, would you ever kind of do a trip?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd love to. That's definitely in the plan. I'd love to. I used to say to my mum, we should go together. So I'm not against it. It's just one of those trips, I guess. Do you go somewhere into the unknown, or do you go for comfortability kind of thing? And I've always just gone for comfortability. We always go to, or if we're going to go on a big holiday, it's a holiday to the Caribbean. A holiday that we already know someone else is there, so let's go there, not into the unknown. And I think I protect myself in my own bubble of comfortability as well, to the point that I have certain standards and expectations. And I think the way that my mum was like even though my mum was many things, but she liked to, how can I say it? She liked to show us a struggle. I think that's what I'd say. And I think I was never comfortable with that. I don't know how to explain it. But I think as I've grown up within my own protection bubble, I struggle with certain things to the point where if I go to a hotel, it's like a lot because it has to have certain things in place. And I think that stops me from going to certain areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when we used to go to Gambia, it'd always be in a compound. It'd always be whoever had the shower first had the hot water. Everyone else is having the cold. You stayed with 5 different families, whereas I couldn't, and I feel so bad because I think the kids would really become enriched or something like that. I couldn't put myself in that. Again, I want a nice hotel with hot running water the whole time, with all inclusive. Like, I don't know. I'm just so that's why I think sometimes that I haven't done things.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's right. It's just my own public protection, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, obviously I've never been to that country, but the first time I went to Cameroon, I was 8. And all I had ever known up until that time was the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
And we went, well, I mean, I get to an extent you get into the Caribbean as well, but when they opened the airplane door, and you get hit with that heat and that intense smell. I don't know what it is. I mean, it was so hectic. And I remember the capital city was, it was different, but it was fine. But then we went to my mom's village, which was, it felt like forever to get by. It's in the rainforest. And it was just, cooking on wood fire. It's living in huts with my grandma. And my great grandma did have a solid house because she was the wife of the chief that I spoke about earlier. But then he had a compound with all his other wives who lived there. So it was a real everything is topsy-turvy, and I'm just not really understanding so much because it was French. And I didn't speak French. And all these kids who were playing with us, and I was just like, I don't even know how to do this. So yeah, it is a massive, a different place. But I do I do cherish knowing what it is like where my mom comes from. I think it does give you a depth of understanding that you are also from here. Even if it's just a gene pool. No, definitely. But I can see that. But I think my older sister is probably more like you. Oh my god, I don't know. I need like solid ground hotel, water that runs hot. Yeah, and my mum would be turning in her grave because like I didn't raise you like that. Like she and her building just the craziest of places, even in terms of like camping and stuff. Like my mum gave me the best experiences of the world that I think one could really ask for. So my dad was also one of the founding people or musicians of a musical camping festival. I don't know when it started. I think it started before I was born. It was in, I don't know where. It was far. It was called the Tribe of Jolly, so basically. But it meant that even after he passed, we were able to go for free or with a small donation because of like his position. And it was an amazing thing to do. The camping, there was so much freedom. Would I ever take my children now? Would I let them roam free the way I didn't know? And I don't know if that's just a difference in parenting now, like parenting back then is now. Like I literally have my breakfast with my mum. She'd be like, come at such and such. Well, no, we didn't have those. So I don't know how she told us to come back, but each and every one were just hungry. We'd go looking for her. But we were left from morning till it went dark. And then we came back to the tent, and that was some of the best experiences of my life. And I feel bad that I couldn't do that to my kids because my anxiety, unless you got air tabs or something. But then I think this is a psychological thing. I would say for partners,
now I'm pregnant again. I think death does something to you that you don't always realise it does. And for me, even more so now my mum's died, I have really bad anxiety over things. Like I have to be in control. And I wasn't necessarily a person like that before. I might have had like little hints of it, but since she's passed, I see the anxiety more. So then when I look back at when my dad died, I think maybe because when you're a child, you don't have that control as well. Now I'm an adult with no parents. I've got to try and navigate who I am by myself and the culture of who I am by myself. It's a blessing, but then the curse is me like, how can I make sure we're all safe? And I think when death comes around, you struggle to trust what's going to happen next. So you try and keep things in just tight control all the time. And I think that then trickles down to hot water and a nice thing. Like it sounds very placid and materialistic and privileged, but I think it's all trickles of anxiety that you're just trying to control to make you feel safe in that space.
Well, I do get that.
Yeah.
I do get that. And you probably, like you say, you probably had it from 3 years old when you realized time that it happened in our world. And then when it happens again, and as an older person who has dependence now, it hits you, 10x.
Yeah.
What is it that you might wish other people would know about being mixed?
There's so many complexities of it that you can't put us all into one box of experiences. Even if you just look at being mixed black and white, there's the African culture of being mixed, there's the Caribbean, there's being British, there's being European in that respect. Like there's so many different complexities that being mixed race isn't just simply, well, you're this and you're that. We have so much more depth to us that I don't think we're really granted. We're very much overlooked as a society, and we have feelings too, like this thing of just being half caste or the race that people didn't want once upon a time as well, which wasn't really that long ago. I think it was at least my mum's generation, which is the like late 40s, 50s. Mixed race children were put up for adoption all the time. So it's not really been that long within our history that we've even been allowed to just be accepted into our family homes, let alone society in general. So we thought we should have a lot more grace than we are granted. And even though we may have privileges either here and there, we're still human beings that have our own trauma that we're still trying to navigate and figure out within ourselves, especially if you're not like present within the cultures that you have within your DNA. Yeah.
That's really good answer to that question.
Thanks.
Yeah. And the part of where we were a long time, weren't accepted, wanted, were an anomaly. And I think that's part of the reason why I, again, also wanted to have these conversations, because I think even though it's more prevalent now, I think I still deal with a lot of these things that you just literally mentioned in those last few sentences. Where I was raised by an African woman in a land and a culture that was foreign to her, that she tried to adopt by pushing away her African side, but it would but it was still there. You know, you can't really the same way.
Yeah.
But I effectively grew up in a white country with white friends, and I kind of had to imagine the other culture, even though she was the embodiment of it in my life.
Yeah.
It wasn't front and center.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. And that's just, it's ironic because I feel the same for my mum. I remember one time me and another friend who's mixed race was like, we were just like, there's no white culture, even though we were both raised by our dominant person was a white person. It was still that kind of low-key rejection that we didn't realize. Because I do feel like I don't really know what my mum taught me from the British culture, apart from the bad stuff and where she grew up, which is beautiful. But apart from that, everything was African, or everything was Caribbean, everything was cultured. All her friends around here because she'd come here maybe in the 80s. She, like, her foundation was here with all her black friends. I think she only had one white friend when it was her funeral. Her family came and they were not used to the type of funeral that she had, because she had like a black people funeral, whereas in my experience, white funerals are very small, church-led, very quick, with nibbles at the end. Whereas my mum wanted to have a community funeral, which meant it had to be at the West Indian Centre. There was God knows how many people there. Like, it was very busy, but because she'd been a teacher as well in Little London, she'd done so much community work and just work in general. There was people from all over that came. And her family were like, how does she know anything? Where have they come from? And they were like, only Hannah would have a funeral like this. And then someone spoke about her at the centre. He was like, Megan is the only white person that could take a coach of black people out of Chapeltown into the countryside, not know where we're going, and do a funeral service for her because she's buried in where is she? I want to say she past Bolton Abbey. It's actually 2 hour drive because she wanted to have a woodland burial. Even I didn't know where we were going, but she had a good coach and a half full of people along with cars follow her up out into the countryside to have this. And when he says that, literally everyone just laughed, but they agreed because she was a white person that was very unique within her way. So I'm blessed that I had a white mum that still brought the culture into me and did everything that she could, despite the culture man, the African man not being there.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially in Leeds, unfortunately, a lot of people have mixed race children, and if the mum is white, and then they're not with the dads, they don't have that black culture. They are very much just white led, and you see it. Whereas I'm blessed to have that culture within me from then. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it, and I'm sure with people that are listening to it that are going to relate to it.